Now we're going to start the design process. So beginning on page 1-12 in our manual, we're going to first focus our attention on the parking lot. And you can see what we're going to do here in this task is locate some low points. And we're doing this to kind of show you how we can access surface information done in another portion of Power Civil to help us in the drainage design and location of our structures. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our site model file. So I go Civil, Modeler, and that's going to start up a project wizard. And I have an existing project that contains my ground and proposed surfaces. Click Browse, and that project file is located in my project folder, Data Geosite Drainage. So I'll highlight that project file. It has a GSF extension or site file. And that's the file that contains the surfaces that we'll be using again later to set elevation on structures and so forth. So I select it, click OK, and it will open up that project. Now what I want to do is I want to access a particular tool in drainage that can read the surfaces in there and bring up the low points on those surfaces. So in my case, I want to go to Utilities, Navigator, and DTM Drainage Tools. The drainage tools are a set of 12 tools that allow me to kind of look at surfaces from a drainage perspective. We have tools that allow me to create watersheds or depict watersheds on a surface. Here are the surfaces, model and object. So again, in my project I have one model surface, which you see here in blue and white contours, and that's made up of several objects. So there's my list of objects. There's the ground surface, the existing ground. I'm going to zoom in to the parking lot because that's where we're going to be designing. And I'll set that as my object, PL1. Like I said, we can delineate watersheds. We can do a water analysis, like if a water droplet fell on a particular point on a surface, for example, where would it flow to? That's called downstream trace. The opposite of that would be flow uphill or upstream trace. If I click Apply and Data Point, you'll see it'll kind of follow the surface and show me where water would flow to. We have flow arrows that will go out there and place arrowheads in everywhere on the surface pointing in the direction water would flow. We have surface pond analysis that would go out there and show me where water ponds. If I set up a little view attribute here on my view 1 called fill and apply that, you can see it'll shade in white where water can pond on that surface. Turn fill off, and then quick pond analysis tool that will tell me real quick the volume of this pond, the area, the elevation, and the depth. Now what we want to use is the low point tool. Update my view here. We want to use the low point tool, and what I want to do is set up a color. So let's see, I'll set up, I believe I have a level called low points, by level, by level, by level, and I'll create an arrow, let's say 5, and a minimum low point depth of 0.2. And when I click Apply, it will go out there and place arrows, in this case blue, wherever there's a low point based on the surface of my parking lot in this case. So it's placed an arrow there. Now it's ignored places where it only is 0.2 in depth. So it's ignored anything less than 0.2 as a low point, which means basically that if, for example, I had an anomaly in the surface that caused a low point and it was a depth of 0.1, it would ignore that and not consider that. It would consider that to be part of a larger drainage area. So here I've gone out and set 0.2, and you can see the blue arrows. Now right now they're display only, so when I refresh they go away. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle off display only, yet I'm going to toggle on graphic group. That means they'll be part of a group, and if I need to delete them, I can easily delete them when I have the graphic group lock turned on in Power Civil, which I do at this point. So I click apply, and it places the arrows out there. So when I refresh, they're still there. Let me zoom in on those arrows, and you can see the arrowhead pointing to the low point. And if I really get close, there's a little LP there standing for low point. And that text can be adjusted simply through the Power Civil text styles. So that gives me the location of where, or suggested location of where I can place a structure. And I can use those to help me in locating those in the design. Let me go ahead and close the low point, or the water drainage water tools. And I also am going to exit out of Modeler. So I'm going to exit out of the surfaces. It'll ask me to save it. I do not need to save it, so I'll say no. And I do not need to lock any elements. So now I have kind of the location of where I want to place the inlets.